It's a great thing to sit and look at hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs of the history of Mount Madonna and Babaji and all of you. It's just amazing what that man created just out of his essence. Everything. We all know that, those of us, whether you were kids or young people or older people. I think they're all dead, but the rest of us, it's just amazing. We've tried, Rajendra and I make up the archive project, and so we've tried to put together something that would inspire you to talk, to tell stories, to remember events and people. This show is called a slideshow with a narrative, and the narrative is you or us.
This is PK and Babaji loved to play, as Rajesh said. So did PK, and the way to get PK's attention was with a big ball. We had a childcare tent. And the kids all used to play in it. There's Sumesh, I think. I don't know who's hanging from the tent. And where was that tent? Is it it was in the bottom of the lake before there was a lake. Umesh and PK. With a ball. Rajesh and Anandi and Shekhar.
This is the picture Rajesh was referring to. Somewhere in there is Babaji. And Rajesh said that when they were coming down, he was in between Babaji's legs. It was a cardboard box for refrigerators. Sri Gyan, and many of you who grew up and grew through the school here, remember him as your 5th grade teacher. This is Jayanti's mother, Peg, who sponsored, I think, one of the senior houses.
Hello.
And Vivek. Vivek was a great story. I'm sorry he's not here to tell it, but his mom lived up the road, and she'd come over and work with her, the guy who lived there with her. And Vivek was just a teenager and didn't want to do anything. So she took him to a Sillamar, where one day we were tearing apart one of the buildings, and he sat in the car pouting. And then Babaji went over and talked him into working with us. And Vivek was the greatest worker after that. He was just beautiful. He actually saved Sampad and Kalpana's house trailer when the driver lost control, and Vivek ran alongside, pulled the driver out, and jumped in and stopped the truck.
Oh my God.
And you know where Sampad's house is, so that was a steep hill.
Oh my God. Right here, Mom.
Sack fights. Those were brutal. Totally brutal.
No,
Okay, you gotta love this picture.
I don't think they are. Also, we can't tell. They need
Tobin says he doesn't think he was sleeping, but sure looks like it to me.
I'll just say that the Hanuman Olympics was really hot.
summer, and it took so much work preparing just basically a blank dirt field for the Hanuman Olympics every year. But you can see the joy the community had, participating and being involved. And I'll just say one thing about this sack race thing Babaji started. I tried to get out right away because it hurt. But first out I just went next to somebody and fell down. I said, forget this. Because I got elbowed several times before that. And pretty wild.
Yeah, same for me, PD. Just get me out. That little PK with redheaded guy sure shows up a lot. Babaji everywhere was hands-on. This is just one of the very small situations where he just went in to help somebody. We were trying to figure out how old he was. He must have been in his 50s, I would think. Anybody have an idea?
So this summer, we're having the 50th annual community yoga retreat at Salt Spring, and we will be doing the Hanuman Olympics. So everybody's invited.
Lily, why don't you talk about this? Because as I recall, you broke your leg, I think.
So I now I'm remembering. Thanks, Sudhir.
Get close to a mic, Lily.
I think we had all sorts of events planned, and we had trained for a bunch of them in the track club with Purnanand. But there was some kind of fun relay race that we got to take part in, and we hadn't really been trained in how to get off of the fence once you jump down off of it. And there was a big, 3-foot pad, those blue gymnastics pads, and I jumped down and straight onto my feet, and I think I sprained one ankle and fractured the other. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Jeev wasn't too happy.
Lots of races.
Oh, that's
That's a good year.
serious.
Tug of peace.
I'm sure they're doing shirts for their retreat.
Balloon toss.
Water balloon toss. That really started out on Easter and down by the volleyball courts. And of course, Babaji had us make a lot of extra balloons so you could throw them at each other. Even had us bring the fire engine down one time just for good measure.
That's Prob in right front there. That's Prob Pacey.
My memory is that we would go down to that field sometimes. I don't know what the scheduling was exactly, but maybe on Babaji's whim, and learn how to fight with staffs. And you do a lot of moves just kind of on your own, like you see. But then at some point you get to get paired up, and that was where the fun really began. And try to whack each other, but you weren't really supposed to. You're just trying to hit each other's staffs. But it was a lot of fun, and I particularly remember Rajesh being able to spin 2 staffs at once behind his head and in front of him, and I was really impressed with that capacity, and it didn't go very well when I tried it.
It's also where, when my first Ramayana, we didn't do a lot of battles. So we learned that in staff class. All the fight scenes in the Ramayana sort of came out of this training that we did.
Yeah, I had that same thought about staff class, and then because of the training through staff class, then in the Ramayana we were given real swords, real metal swords that we were allowed to fight with. And I played Ravana for so many years, so I had that really heavy metal sword. And I remember one year a parent got really paranoid and was like, no, 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 we got to take these swords away. And Babaji said, no, we can use the swords.
Yeah, Babaji used to teach us hand-to-hand combat, and I remember when I was like 13, he asked my sister and I if we wanted to learn how to fight with daggers. And then we thought about it, and then we said, no, Babaji. And he was like, okay. And then later, I know, like a year later, we were like, that would be kind of cool. And we went back and asked him, and he was like, nah, it's not going to happen now. It's too bad you lost your chance.
I just want to say how many of those cherubs contributed to being in Babaji's, Children's Garden of Yoga book. So all that yoga training started so early. Thank you to you all.
So this is the beginning of a series. Quincy has a loose tooth. And keep your eyes on Erin, the young lady standing up there. So this is cool. The kids were encouraged to do this. Now look at Erin now. Quincy doesn't look that happy either. But he has faith. Babaji was really good at pulling teeth. Any kid who had a loose tooth, if their parents could get them to go up there, it was a done deal. Better than the doorknob. And Quincy's dad, Dr. Jug, he was famous. Oh.
And what he deserved.
This is at the volleyball courts a long time ago. I think Rajendra and I were talking about this picture, and we realized this sort of represents a lot of things that we did with Babaji's support and actually coordinating it that just wouldn't go over these days. You'd have our workers' comp people running down there saying, no, 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 no. Babaji was our own sort of workers' comp insurance project. Look at this.
This was the first Thanksgiving Day. This was our project on Thanksgiving Day to move the old water container that was up at the spring that's halfway up the hill of the lake down. When Babaji came for Thanksgiving, he said, "What is the program?" And we thought the program was hanging out, but this became the program.
Before the land, we had retreats at Camp Swig, which was up Highway 9 near Saratoga, I think.
So the two kids who are looking towards us is Usha on the right and Rajesh right beside her. Yeah.
Babaji had the kids going in the kitchen to help make feasts, Boj. Anybody want to speak to that? That's Jairaj and the hawk.
The state championship at volleyball. Babaji was our greatest cheerleader, although we also had, Jairaj, were you the mascot? Yes.
So I have a story about this. So this was a huge community gathering in San Jose. We had 50 kids in the school, and we had our side of the cheering was about 10 times bigger than the other team. But one of the family members of one of the players on the other team, this was an LA team versus the Northern California and the Central California champs. And he came, and Babaji was, kind of a central figure. He kind of looks different, right? But anyway, so he came up to Babaji and said, Babaji, your team is going to get killed today. What? And they wound up winning 3-0.
Tobin would come out on different work projects and work with the rock crew. Another workers' comp issue.
I worked with the rock crew a lot throughout the years, and the Navaratri part was always my favorite. All the kids would make like mini demons to go alongside Ravana and Meghnad, and I was super obsessed with doing it. And I wanted to make one that was, at least decently sized. So I think this was actually the last year I did it. It was my masterpiece. It was supposed to be Aksha, and it looked a lot worse than I remember it. But I think it was like 15 feet tall, and that was like way taller than any of the other kids' ones, so I was stoked on it. And I remember Sudhir giving me a lot of help with parts of it and like making the arms work, and so thank you, Sudhir.
This is Easter. We are just finishing musical chairs. So I'm sure by now you recognize Premdas in the back. We were quarrying rock on a hillside. I think that's the lower road. I mean, we went out, all these walls, almost all of them, we dug the rock out. There's a few walls that we purchased some rock, but...
I remember when we would go out into the woods, like a big group of young people and some teenagers and Babaji and maybe some other adults, but maybe not. And then these rocks would be coming down the mountain and like narrowly missing us. And it was so dangerous. It was great. We had such a good time.
Ramayana. Okay, this picture is a story for me. We would do the haunted house anywhere we could. Conference center, fire shed, log building. If somebody was building a house and it wasn't done.
Right.
And Babaji could finagle the parents or the house people to let us use it. So that bag that Babaji's reaching into is filled with candy, and we'd bought that for the haunted house to give out. So Supriya and the family, the McDonalds, were building their house. So Babaji called PK, this is PK McDonald, over, and he wrote, "If we can use your house, you can have this whole bag of candy." And that's the moment of that. The next moment, PK turned around and asked his mom, and she said no. Just the cutest guy.
Is that New Year's or a retreat? Or?
No, I think that's a Saturday afternoon. Okay, we had a band, and God bless Babaji, we would like open the curtain after dinner on Saturday. We learned a new song, everyone, and he would graciously stay, and we had many adult mentors that would come in, but I think, is that the twins? Is that you and your sister and me? Yeah. But yeah, we had a band for a lot of years that maybe entertained Babaji sometimes.
All right, pranayam, somebody talk.
Okay. I think when I was like 11, this guy from India named Yogi came to Mount Madonna, and he was like a circus performer / yogi / showman / real personality. And the whole school went up to the upper lot because he did like a show of feats of strength. He had like he would break rocks on his chest, and he would bend rebar, and he had a tractor drive on top of him. He was like on his chest, and then the tractor went up on the lifts, and then one of the wheels was on him. So it was a big show. Oh, and I think he ripped phone books in half, like all that stuff. And I remember after the show, Babaji had all the kids come next to him, and then he was like, "You want to learn how to do this?" And all the kids were like, yeah, of course we do. And so that was the beginning of Power Pranayam class. And after school, we would go to the kutir and we would practice pranayam with Babaji. And then little by little, over months and then years, we learned how to do feats of strength. And that involved bending rebars with our neck, getting rocks broken on our chests. Depending on your capacity. That's me on the left, and that's Babaji bending a piece of rebar with his eye. Because you would put the rebar against the wall, and then you would walk toward it, and it would bend like this. A lot of it had to do with pranayam. A lot of it was showmanship. Like we became like a show. Like I remember we went to Cirque du Soleil performance in San Jose because the choreographer, Debbie, she was one of Babaji's students, and we all went to Cirque du Soleil with Babaji and watched the show, and then afterwards like went backstage, and there actually were midgets like playing cards, like the whole thing. And then I remember that some of us wanted to run away with the circus because they were like, "Oh, we should have this Power Pranayam show in Cirque du Soleil," and our parents weren't into that. But a lot of the things that we would do would also be very presentational and would be kind of choreographed. So we really learned not only meditation, pranayam, but how to work as a team, how to be aware of each other and communicate, how to have a process and a level of trust with each other. It was a very formational experience for all of us in how we worked in a group, how we were aware of ourselves, and how we understood yoga.
So like Sangita is saying, Babaji was very serious about this practice, very disciplined, which then required us to also be very focused and very disciplined. And it was a steady process over months and months and months where we'd build up to the heavier weights, and the risk and the danger would increase, and all the parents and aunties in the audience would audibly gasp at some of the things that we were doing, for sure.
So for those of you who didn't experience Navaratri with the Ravana burning, This is the two primary demons, Ravan on the right and his son Meghnad on the left. The rock crew and whoever wanted to join the rock crew for that week or 10 days built them, decorated them, ended up burning them at night in the early fall with the sparks flying all over. Leela and Supriya, I remember, and maybe Jayant even were chasing the sparks throughout the upper campground. Was because another dangerous thing we did. Whoops. Babaji would give the kids candy, and he had a 2 candy rule or 1 big one. This little guy seems to not worry about the rule.
It was 1 big, 2 little, or medium and a little, right? Yeah. Medium and little was the bigger deal.
I don't remember that.
I think I was negotiating.
Oh, okay. It was always the hustle. Yeah, it was the hustle.
So little.
And Soma, Prabha's sister on the left, and Amita, they were both in the boarding school here. There's a picture of Amita with her mom, so if anybody wants to tell the story, we can do that then. The power couple.
Check out your hairstyle. Let's talk strategic plan. Let's talk strategic plan. That's when it started. Yeah, totally.
She was in the boarding school for a while, Parvati McMahon. This young lady is sitting in here somewhere in the hall tonight. That's Erin Mitchell, Quincy Tobin's sister, and somehow related to Dr. Jug.
Can I talk to that one for a second?
Sure.
Excuse me. Sud here wanted to make a Hallmark card. So he asked permission from my parents if he could use me. And we spent what felt like an extremely long time trying to get a deer to come close enough to me. First we had a bowl of fruit, and then I transferred the fruit to my hand, and finally got this picture, and I just remember being terrified.
It looks to me like Babaji's trying to defend something with the kids. An early classroom.
I just wanted, for a moment, honor Shyam Pacey, who's passed away, Prabha's elder brother. I've seen him in several pictures, and my heart goes out to him and love him. And this was, Ramdev was the teacher. This was in our, behind the farmhouse in an early, maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th combo classroom at the site of what became our garden.
Manjula lived here and with her daughter, Purnima. And then there was Bhavani. I had a great relationship with Manjula in that she came as a single mother, and I was in charge of work, and I didn't think she was really doing the work that she was supposed to be doing, so true to my nature, I tried to get her to move. And of course, she went to Babaji, and Babaji rescued her several times. And Manj and I are really good friends now. I lost that battle, but I won the war. And Purnima is up at the school in some administrative role. This is Leela, for one. So this is a horse that Dayanan rescued.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he just wandered around the property. There was nowhere he couldn't go. We even brought him into the building once for a play. If anybody has that photograph, I'd like it. You're going to speak, PD?
Yeah, so this is the Widgety story. I taught in the preschool, and one of the things that we did was we did a morning hike. And Widgety was down at the garden, and it took about 2 hours of the day, which is really nice to have that program done, with the little kids. But it was great, it'd take an hour to walk down, hang around with Widgety, and then take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get back. But people would go down and feed Widgety like rice from the kitchen and all kinds of leftovers, And we'd go down there, and the funniest thing was we would just go down there to hear Widgety farting from all the food that he got, that was all weird. Anyway.
All right, Widgety participated in everything. Like, I was working in the programs office, which is now guest services, and the programs always came in on Friday afternoon. They were mainly weekend programs, and Widgety would stand in the doorway of the CB, like half in the building and half out of the building on Friday afternoons when the guests came. Like, he knew it was the time that the guests would come. We had this little yurt off the side of the CB, and we did a lot of healing mantra there for all of the people that were sick and dying in the fellowship. And you'd hear Widgety outside. We'd be chanting. Sudhir and I did a lot of healing mantra in that little yurt. And you'd hear Widgety outside just rubbing the side of it, like participating. And also he would come up to the yagya site where the temple is now, but we did rituals there, but there was no temple yet. But Widgety would come up and fart during the yagya. That was his contribution.
A sweet old guy. With the Ramayana, Babaji was hands-on from
Your mom, I see that.
co-writing the script to making the props to advising about costumes and music. And during the days of the Ramayana, he'd get there early and he would dress a lot of the people. I have this Ramayana story, of which there are a number of funny ones. It has nothing to do with Ravana. Well, maybe it does, because Lara was Ravana, and there was a demon in her court whose head was like at a 90-degree angle, so it was about 1.5 feet away from the neck. And Lara was doing a very serious scene, and this demon would turn to look at her and hit her. And she got really pissed after about 7 times. And everybody, I think, certainly I in the audience, was just hysterical, because you could tell he didn't know what he was doing. He just turned his head to look at her. Lara, do you want to defend yourself?
Yep.
No, I can just say I 100% agree. I was so pissed. It was like, Ravana's final soliloquy, and I mean, probably not. It was probably Ravana's court or something, or maybe we were sending Meghnad out to battle or something. But anyway, he was way upstaging me, and I was so pissed.
I don't know.
Yeah, Santosh. Yeah.
Yep. Road.
Yogi.
Yogi for sure.
You can't see those.
Simon, Gita, Lyria.
That's Lara in the middle and Rajesh on the far right. Could PK be any cuter?
Throw a mustache on that kid.
So even though there's no face to this young woman who's directing the group, we all know it's Sarojini. I don't know how many years she did this, but you could count on her directing every class in the school or every holiday.
Look at that.
This is from the book, The Garden of Yoga, Children's Garden of Yoga, that Sharda referenced.
The big rock.
That was just for the photo.
Somebody told me they didn't think they were really moving that rock. Suresh, were you moving that rock?
Where is that? Where is that? Is that here?
India.
India. Yeah, it's India. Yeah.
Okay.
There's stories
How do
on
you
that
know?
rock, right?
Beans. It's Zelda.
Pushkar.
So Pushkar was a very mean pony. And once I was riding Widgety, and Pushkar kept running at me, trying to bite my feet. And I think shortly after that, we got rid of Pushkar.
So that shot, if you don't believe, is the lake, right? We're looking towards the lake and the dam, and there used to be these huge walnut trees there.
Megan, wait on the left. Is that Megan?
Waiting for the school bus.
Oh.
Ah.
You went out. Arias, where are you? You want to talk about that moment?
In the kitchen again. Rajesh, Jai, Nayana, Sita.
Manjula, that bus, Manjula told me about that bus. She said that she took that bus to see the eclipse in Oregon in like 1970 something, and with her family and but I hadn't seen a picture of it till now. It's pretty cool.
So this is actually housing. It was when we first came here, Babaji tested it all to see if we really wanted to stay. So a couple came from BC, And he said, "You can stay in the bus." And they left.
A lot of people lived in that bus. It got fixed up like about 5 times. It was actually a pretty cool bus to live in.
I think it ended up being Phil in the upper lot.
So Satish used to do this for every photo. He would look at his feet down at the bottom. He would stand on his tippy toes to be as tall as the rest of us. Class of 1986.
No, 85.
85.
So beautiful, Laura. And then if you look on the left, there was a younger version.
That's Dr. Bhavani's daughter.
Vidya?
Vidya. That's
yeah. Oh, Diana.
Before corrective eye surgery.
There you are, Diana. Penguin. In the forest animal.
I have such a special place in my heart for the Ramayana. And I remember I was a forest animal many, many years in a row. And this year, my sister, Shannon or Purnima, she was Sita. So we have a picture of us. I'm the little penguin, and she's the big, beautiful goddess Sita. But during this time, I don't remember if we were doing the Ramayana at Cabrillo College or...
Probably.
But in order to get on stage, we had to walk down this dark, dark hallway that was like behind the curtain. And I was really scared of the dragon. And so many, many performances, I didn't actually make it on stage because I wouldn't walk down the hall. I don't know, I think probably shortly thereafter, my dad, who had keys to everywhere, up here, when it wasn't Ramayana time, would take me into the prop room downstairs where kids were not allowed. We were not allowed to go in there, so that I could make friends with the dragon, because the giant, I think, dragon head or part of the dragon was stored in there. And so, yeah.
If a child ever needed support or help, and Babaji saw it, he was there every time.
All right. That's the early choreography right there.
Babaji's house?
When the pool was working, I never saw that pool.
This is Jeev, and I think I had come back from college for the Hanuman Olympics. And Jeev insisted that I participate in all of these things, which was kind of embarrassing at that point in my life. But I remember she was like, "I'm going to do the hula hoop. Let's do it together." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll do it with you." And there's some really cute pictures of us hula hooping together. Sadly, we lost Jeev a few years ago, but she was the one that Babaji tagged to be my guardian and my sister's guardian when we were here without parents. I was about 14 and my sisters were a few years younger. And she kept track of me for the next, till a few years ago when we lost her. And she was kind of a matter-of-fact guardian. This was maybe one of the few times that she physically expressed affection with me, and you can see from my face that I wasn't really that used to it. But her affection was expressed in thousands of other ways. Just making sure that we had every basic need met, making sure we were prepared for any catastrophic eventuality that might be involved in anything we thought we might like to do. And doing really basic things like she made sure I was signed up for the SAT, and she wasn't huge on food prep because that was mostly taken care of, but she made me a sandwich, and I still once in a while will make this tofu dill spread because it kind of reminds me of the sandwich she made. And I came back and said, gee, that sandwich was amazing. Thank you so much for making me that delicious sandwich. Anyway, I miss her, and she was an amazing woman. I know for so many people up here in so many different ways, but she kept, I think, the place safe just by pure force of will and attention to detail.
Just to add just a teeny bit on that, we called her K-Jeeve because she was like the radio station that would let you know when any catastrophe was coming before it came. K-Jeeve would let you know anything. And so Babaji would say, talk to K-Jeeve, ask K-Jeeve.
So this is my son Raj, and there were a lot of boys here at the first, and maybe Suresh can say something, but they just used to run as a pack, and the mothers never knew where they were, except they did go up to eat at Sharda and Diana's. I think they were there all the time eating after school.
This is Sadhna Kilpatrick teaching us many things, but I think she was mainly our English teacher initially. And I think I'm over there on the left, dabbing at my eye, the very, very left. But it was an interesting classroom situation because I'm a high school teacher now, and I recognize how unique this situation was, which was that you had a personal relationship with every single kid in your class, and often a years-long history. And for some of the kids in there, like a pretty much lifelong history with each other. But it was something special to actually take each person as an individual. In my classes currently, I see kids and they connect with a few kids, but generally they barely know most of the kids in the class. So this was a really unique, almost like cousin-like relationship, I feel, with each other. And it made you have to really interact and understand each other and work with each other and kind of accept each other and in a really unique way that I think caused a lot of growth. I mean, it was like a true smaller learning community.
This is Purna, Dr. Om Prakash's son, and that's the wolf that we adopted for 6 months or so, sitting on Babaji's lap. He was actually half wolf, but he was half wolf for sure. If you walked out of the building with a plate of food and he was there, because we didn't tie up our animals, and he'd just come over and take your food.
Yeah, he actually lived with Dave and me, and he would like lie on the couch all the time.
Easter. Prabha. Haley Campbell.
She's so cute. That's the Hallmark card. That's the Hallmark one. So great.
oldest. In the front with the bunny ears is my oldest daughter, who's not here tonight, but she's graduating. She's a senior this year from Mount Madonna.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom and my niece.
Watching them shoot the arrows at Ravana.
PK.
I'm going to jump with your crutches.
I'm pretty sure that's my sister Lirio.
I'm pretty sure.
Crossing the flames, even with this crutches and broken foot situation. I think she was at UCSC and in dance classes when she fractured a bone in her foot, but it didn't stop her. Nothing stops her.
Right.
There we go.
Very tiny.
That's Marm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bend?
Yeah.
Quincy and Tobin.
Pratibha.
And Aaron.
Did you dance? Get clapping.
When Quincy was this age, he used to love to dance in front of Babaji, and all we'd have to do was just start singing, da run dun 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 da dun 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 da, and he would just start dancing with this
Go, Quincy, go.
huge,
Dance, Quincy, dance.
with this huge grin on his face. It was just so much fun.
Being the center of attention. Nice.
Nayana.
That's me flying in the air. It was a lot of fun. I wanted to be thrown.
Oh, good.
I think that was after the Hanuman Olympics. It's after some event, and we then came down to the lake and would have lake contests, like who could stay upright on the log the most. It's not in this picture, but we had a floating log in here that would get nice and slimy and slippery. And when you would stand on there by yourself, it was great because you can control how quickly it turns. But when you have several other people on it, one side will kind of like dip down and then it might go faster, and you just see who would stay on the longest. But this particular, I don't know if this was just fun or actually a game.
This is the roof in India, and that's PK flying a kite. And that's Babaji with the kite. And Suresh and PK.
Thanks a lot, Sudhir, and everyone for doing this. I've got, I feel like I have something that jogs my memory on every one of these. So this is in India, and I think this is some year, I think probably the first year that PK and I went, it was maybe 87. And this, I don't know how many kite photos there are here, but this is a mellow one. So the sort of the varsity level version of flying the kites in India is that are these kite fights where like people battle and try to cut the line on each other's kites. And Babaji told us lots of things, and I believed them all, and I continue to believe them all. And one of the things he told us was that there was a technique of putting crushed glass on your line of your kite in order to win the battle. anyways, that's some context for this one. So this is the some of that going on. And you had, you can see in the last one I was flying it and PK had the spool, and in this one Babaji's flying it and I have the spool. So you had your partner that would help you there. So that's a long thought on one photo. I think for me, seeing all these photos across India and the Ramayana and Power Pranayam and staff class and I don't know what other vignettes are in here. It was just how present Babaji was. I mean, this was up here Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then down again in town on Sunday, and sometimes a Friday up at Ma's for the pool. And if a holiday fell on a Wednesday, then it was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday week, so he was just a really consistent part of our lives, and I resonate with everything that has been said. I think, on your statement about the Air Force, I wasn't sure where that was headed, but I think it headed exactly right. The test pilot. I mean, I think we were the test pilot on a lot of things, and partners, and yeah, we had a lot of freedom, and I think that obviously comes through. There's a lot of risk management that Sudhir has said wasn't happening in the 70s and 80s, but for me as a almost 50-year-old adult in 2024, I'm really grateful for it.
I would just like to say that I vividly remember, I still have a handful of those Christmas tins from C's Candy that we would get on Christmas. They were always very special. The candy was a theme for sure, but those were special tins of candy.
Yeah, I actually think the candy's kind of been undersold so far tonight. So, I mean, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, also candy. And, my recollections has started out with one, and then I remember non-sugar, yeah. And as a side note, like you could definitely tell when there was some parent who was, had an agenda, and the sesame things came in and things like that. Like it's like, yeah, there'd be like a week of that, but. I remember the day that it became one for the mouth and one for the hand, and that was out front of the old program building. And that was a big watershed doubling. So Christmas was got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know where, this looks like kind of a smallish tin. There was one year where it was like these giant, remember the giant lollipops? They're like that big. So I don't know what exactly was going on. My impression was Babaji was pushing the parents, and again, we were the test pilots. Yeah, that's the other thing. You came in this room, and it was taped everywhere.
Just what came to mind for me was I remember one year when I wasn't quite that young, but still pretty young, and it started to dawn on me that we were eating a lot of candy. And that is just a lot of sugar all the time when I was up here. And I went to my mom, and I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I was like, Mom, should I be eating all this candy and all this sugar? She said, if Babaji gave it to you, it's going to be okay. You can have all the sugar you want if it came from him. So.
And you turned out okay.
Yeah.
I think it was Lara who organized recreating this big room as a version of Candyland which we had done several years. The first time we did it, we locked the doors. We told people they couldn't come in until Babaji came, and a group of us, in particular Hari Priya, really spent all night decorating this room and making sure there was lots of candy. So this is Lara's homage and organization of people to recreate that.
Results.
I think another theme that that Leela's reminding me of, and also has come up in talking about power pranayam and many of the other activities, was the discipline. And as you see in these pictures, there was a really big pile of candy, and we had to pick and stay within the limits. And so I think that's a real overarching theme of growing up with Babaji, of kind of having free range and also having discipline and needing self-control.
Lily left. It's too bad. Here it is.
It's pretty epic. Of course it's real.
Every year for Halloween, we would create a haunted house for a number of years. And Babaji really coordinated the rock crew and whoever wanted to participate to scare the kids. He said, once a year to scare the kids is okay. And sometimes we really scared them.
I second that. It was terrifying. Things I would not have ever imagined could be done from one person to another. The seed was planted. A head could be cut off and on a table. I remember one year, I think it was at the Orchard House or the farmhouse, I don't remember. Anyways, there was a person like laid out on a table and spaghetti coming out and the saw. Yes, they did not spare any child of any age.
I have two little core memories from Halloween, particularly the haunted house. One, of course, was Vishwanath and Bhairab, I think, with the famous chainsaw ambushes.
Oh, yeah.
Just haunted dreams for years to come. Later one I remember was, it was on hiatus for a number of years, and then Sangeeta actually brought it back at the firehouse a number of years later, and we were all very excited, wanted to help out. And I remember Sangeeta had this big old bag of flour and told us, and me in particular, to be very careful around it. And I think about 2 seconds later, I actually either like bumped into it or blew on it, and it went all over Sangeeta's face, and she kicked me off the team. I think that was the last haunted house.
I remember that haunted house. We wrapped Tobin in plastic, and he was supposed to be the crazy guy on the floor, so they would come down the hall, and then Tobin would be like breathing on the floor in plastic. Remember that, Tobin?
Well, Diama, the last photo, ran the library, and she always had cookies. And it was like, you would go to read. Really just be stopping in to sniff out her cookie jar. She was always super tolerant of that.
And at Halloween, when you knocked on her door with your kids, she would never give candy until they did something. She said, it's trick or treat. First you do a trick for me, and then I'll give you a treat.
We were all adopted by the adults in different ways. And Diama adopted me. And even, I think I was a sophomore at college at Stanford, and she would still send me care packages of like socks and nectar nuggets and other little survival gears to get me through college.
That's so cute.
Yeah, the library was a very special, quiet place that I think as a kid I made it to every day, once a day. But I just remember in the front of her house where all the books and everything were, that window there would just let all the sunlight in. And if you went at the right time of day, she had these big cushions and you could just like lay down and take a nap after having your cookie. And you could look at some books too. But I think she was a little bit older when I was going and not out and about in the community as much. So I never really got to know her as a person very well. But I always felt so warm and welcome going to her house. I remember that.
I remember her days of silence, which were a modified version. They would be like,
So, you can only have one,
I used to burn the ends of my braids when we would jump over the fire, my hair, and I would burn my eyebrows. I remember that. Like my eyebrows would be burned and the ends of my braids, and it smelled like smoke forever. It's so much fun.
It was always bragging rights of who would be the first to jump over. I think Suresh got at that a couple times.
But my eyebrows were burned for weeks. I'm not sure the date on that, but I think it might be the 20th anniversary gathering that we had. And I'll note it's 2028 is coming up. If anyone wants to have a 50th. See you there.
Who's the guy in the...
That's Emil.
Oh.
This was a Tuesday, and it had snowed pretty well the night before, so Babaji called Sita over and told her to cancel his appointments, and then trooped down to the bathhouse where there was a good supply of snow, and of course a bunch of us followed, and we had a snowball fight.
That was Emil.
Shivaratri.
Shivaratri, the lingams are being taken into the nuke pond. And then people stood around the fire and tried to warm up.
The night before, or the night of Navaratri, was always really fun as a kid because all of the adults were in one room. And we were allowed to be awake all night. And we just had free roam of every building except for this very room here. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of freedom. And I remember the walk up to the Newt Pond. I think I maybe went in 1 or 2 years, but it was so cold.
Yeah.
I just remember standing around that fire, shivering and being so cold and thinking, I'm not doing that again.
That's Zach. His parents have been students of Babaji's, and he used to come up every Saturday. And he met with Purnima and a few other people who spent time talking with him.
So when we moved out to California from Montessori teaching in Florida, we weren't promised a job, but we came out anyway. And they told Sarojini that we would divide the class into 2 groups because there wasn't enough room in where we were supposed to be for the kindergartners. So she got the log building, which didn't have a toilet. And she complained to Babaji, Babaji, how can I have class with 2 and 3-year-olds without a toilet? And so he went down and put in a portable. And so that's where the first year of, I don't know, maybe there's some of you kids here that were in that class. And I had a really nice kind of cushy kindergarten room.
I said, what will happen if we need help? If one of the kids gets hurt, and he goes, we'll give you a foghorn. Which he did.
After class on Saturdays, after breakfast, after work day, after dinner, Babaji would go down to volleyball. After all, it was going to be light till 9 o'clock in the summer. And after a while, as Rajesh said, probably Rashmi or her family donated a golf cart. Somebody did. And so Babaji would go down in the golf cart, which was fine. Not many people went down with him. When it was time to come back up, all the kids jumped on the golf cart, and a few of us had to push that thing up the hill from the volleyball course to the CB. And of course, the kids thought it was great fun. Babaji thought it was great fun. And whatever. But it's a great picture. I've been wanting this picture for years. And Om Prakash, when he came, brought it. It's the only one I've ever seen.
I think there's 3 elements of that experience that are not implicit in the photo. One is that there's a lot of asphalt on the roads now. The roads are really good. Thank you, Dad. Back then, there was not asphalt on those roads. It was dirt, and it would develop very big rivets and holes. And the second, which interacted with the first, is that Babaji drove very fast and apparently directed at the holes as opposed to away from them. And I think the third is you can see all the kids on there are really little. So this was in the era before we were allowed to play killers, as it was called. That was probably a 1980s word for the advanced volleyball round. So we would spend the time that the adults were playing in the advanced volleyball round just loitering around the golf cart waiting to jump on and be in the best positions. Yeah, you can see PK in the front. He's got the best one.
Bear. That's your brush.
Sweet outfit.
That's it, folks. So thank you all for coming. I hope those of you who didn't know these days have some appreciation about the foundation of the center and Baba Hari Das. And those of us who are here, there's nothing I can say. It was just so special.